7:09.
How are you?
Good. And I think the first item on the agenda is just to approve the minutes from the last meeting. If Ken and Amy, you have those, if we need to put them up on the screen, let me know. So I've read them in advance. So as soon as you guys are comfortable and want to make a motion, feel free.
Gosh. Yeah, I can move to accept them.
Ken, do you second that?
No, you can't. We're going to go for it, okay?
Can't hear you, Ken. You're muted.
Yeah, second.
All right. I just wanted to discuss one thing on it. Does it make sense to have Anthony DeFonso on there anymore? Should that be stricken?
No, he's not on the committee. He should be off.
He should be on.
So I'll just make a motion to approve them like with his name. Can we do that, Ken? Do we have to make that?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Approved as amended.
Approved as amended. All in favor?
Approved it. Yep.
Yes.
Aye.
Lavoy, yes. So passes unanimously. I think the next piece of the item on the agenda is to discuss standards 1, 2, 3, 4, and evaluation of the evaluation form. So I think this actually bleeds into the next item on the agenda, and I'd open it up to Ken, Amy, and Dr. McCall and Barry, and even Mary here in terms of how we want to approach the next items, because my hope is that for the full school committee meeting that one of the outputs of this meeting is having one person from this school committee, because we're not going to be in person, to kind of present the online template and just let the full school committee know that after the school committee meeting, you're going to have access to this online template, and just giving them that introduction to it. I think part of that leading up to it is having comfort level from Barry that the online template is what we need it to be. So that's where I'd like to kind of begin this conversation. Ken, you as chair of the full school committee, I think if you wanted to present that, that's perfectly fine. But I was thinking about it that I think that this becomes part of Dr. McCall's report, so we can just get ahead of it to the full school committee and have their attention somewhere at the beginning of the meeting, as opposed to pushing it towards the end when people have tailed off, especially in a remote meeting. That's just my gut feel.
I think that's good if it's part of your report. I mean, in a way, I've in the past few meetings I've called on Mike to try and focus our conversation at the discussion of the report. I mean, I could do the same for you there, if people think that's appropriate.
I agree. I think that so. Matt, you would be the one to kind of go through and talk through it. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm fine with that. And then I think I don't know if I know Barry shared a link to it. Ken, if you want to pull that up, if there's anything that we want to discuss as a committee about the electronic form. And then I think Dr. McCall, you submitted some evidence today, and we can have a discussion on that in terms of if there's any. I personally haven't had a chance to even look at it. I know that it came across today. I don't know if anyone else on the subcommittee has, but I just wanted to know if there's anything that you wanted to draw our attention to before that gets released to the full school committee.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. So, what I did was the first section of this document really talks through kind of the COVID-19 crisis that we've all been experiencing for the past couple of months. Then I dove directly into goals and responded to the goals in terms of where I'm at in terms of the process, because again, when we talked about this last time, there's a continuum with some of these right now.
Yeah,
Is there a way we could show? Could somebody else share these while we're talking? Because I'm just trying to take minutes. I don't want to have multiple things.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It just might be easier for me. I like to look rather than listen sometimes.
Sure.
I understand that.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Daryl.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Let me. Can you all see my screen?
No.
No. Can you all see my screen?
Starting to, yes.
Wachusett Regional School District Evaluation Narrative. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. So, Daryl, you just tell me where you want me to be.
Sorry. You know what's happening? Hey, Barry. So it just showed up, but then I only have you, Mary, and Matt on my screen, and then it says Matt Lavoie is presenting next to the record button.
Yeah. Do you have like any kind of a grid view extension or anything running?
Yeah, remember?
So if you click on the three dots next to Matt Lavoie is actually if you click on the three dots next to where it says Matt Lavoie is presenting, and you go to change layout, what is that set to?
I'm sorry. Okay. There's me. See, Matt Lavoie is presenting is on the left-hand side.
Okay. How about if you click on the three dots and go to change layout? The dots I think will be on your right.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're down below. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. And then it's on auto right now.
It's on auto. Oh, that should work.
Should I put it on sidebar?
Sure.
And nothing.
Didn't help.
No. Okay. Well, you know what I'll do, Matt? I will open up mine at the same time and talk through it. So on the first page, that's where I and Matt, so that first page, which goes through the various standards, I kind of explain what the document entails. Okay.
Yep.
And then if you scroll down to page 2, that's where I begin my conversation around the COVID-19 response, beginning with the first kind of conversations and meetings that occurred in February all the way to the present day. So what I've done is I've included websites. I've included documentation associated with all of my school messenger messages that went out. We have links to the Department of Public Health, state of emergency. If you keep scrolling down to page 3, you can see I actually put in the body of the document my the first school messenger where I made a decision to shut school for 2 weeks. Keep scrolling down through page 4. And that's where you'll start to see the links for some of the different things that we had put together through the website. So we have our remote enrichment links, the Chromebook request forms, the free internet. So what I tried to do is really, set these up so if people wanted to go to each individual one, they could. So even down, where it says the WSC remote learning plan with pre-K, K2, 3, 5, those are all individualized, but those all kind of back up what, I've been working on for the past several months. We have links to the survey information that went out. On the next page, there's a link to all of the messages that were shared by me. There were many messages shared by, Brendan had sent some out. Christine had sent some out. I didn't use any of those. I just put the ones in that I actually sent out. As well as my Wachusett news. One thing I might end up doing, I have a couple of other Wachusett news that I had done earlier in the year. So one thing I might do is actually put something in someplace because I didn't link those up anywhere.
Okay.
I then go into the budget and it's pre and post COVID-19. So I talk a little bit about where we started with the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the draft budget, strategic plan. We then kind of I moved directly into kind of the post COVID-19, where I put the tiered reduction plan, the plan that I shared with school committee, I believe on the 20th of May, directly into the document itself.
Okay.
So those are the parts that kind of cover, everything that we've kind of talked about. So during our, we literally had a meeting of this subcommittee in February, and within a week or two, we jumped right into the COVID situation. So again, it's almost frozen in time in terms of where that kind of ended up. So the goals go along with the different areas that we talked about. So I have a student learning goal associated with the homework vision, where I talk about the book that we read. I have some of the studies that were used, one big one that was used, some of the articles. And then one thing that we had talked about was really having that vision. And, here's the vision that, I've pulled together in terms of where this might lead. And again, one of the things that I looked at with this vision was having this kind of help guide the school committee around policy, because one thing that I have seen, because I've spent an awful lot of time on this over the past 9-10 months, is school committee policies. Oftentimes, they're not necessarily, some are very prescriptive, but others give really solid guidance. And I think that solid guidance is what we need as a collective in our school district. So I left this in a way where I want this to help guide a policy moving forward. Okay. If you go to the next, as we continue down, I have my professional practice goal, and we started talking about this a little earlier. This was around really talking about having culturally proficient knowledge and skills and so forth. So one of the things I talked about in February with you guys was, I had wanted to read both of these books at the same time, The Homework Myth and also Unconscious Bias in Schools. There was just no way that, they were just too deep for us to try to kind of discern one from the other. So I wanted to focus on one. So we focused on the homework book, and then we started this book, and we got through the first 6 chapters, and then the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. So again, talk about the Harvard implicit bias test that I shared with principals. We have links to the 6 chapters that we covered and the questions that were discussed. That's on that next page. And then, again, this is going to be one where we'll have to look at extending this goal into the summer and into next year. What I wanted to do is kind of get, I think ultimately we're going to be in a situation where some of my goals for next year are going to be directly tied back to how school's going to look next year, how it's going to be different, how we're going to support learning, remote learning, safe learning, all of those types of things. But to me, this is another one that I think we need to continue with as we kind of go forward. Mm-hmm. Again, we have a district improvement goal where I talk about the 10-year plan of action. So that was really based upon the staffing plan. And when we had met, I had already started to meet with Holden. I was going to meet with the other communities. That didn't happen because of the COVID situation. And with the issues associated with the budget, I do have a feeling that our staffing plan is going to be stifled and is going to need to be modified before I then look at what we might be doing for a larger plan of action around building spaces. So again, I think this is another one that is on hold because of just how different everything is now. If I had just been able to kind of hold on to the staffing plan as is and leave that as the document that will then guide us around, okay, do we have enough space at NAQUAG for X number of teachers with class sizes of 19 kids or whatever it might be? That's where ultimately this entire process was going. Because this is going to look a little different now, I'm going to have to come back to this and think about what it might look like ultimately. And I will need help from this subcommittee on that, moving forward, because I do want to do this in a way that is thoughtful, but also realistic. Mm-hmm. The other goal for this one was around the bullying prevention intervention plan. So we have, I shared the 2 presentations that Matt McAvoy did in the summer with all of the building administrators. We have the, an entire kind of document associated with the stakeholders that were brought together to review this. So, Director Keenan and I worked with school committee members, some police safety officials, administrators, some teachers, counselors, and so forth. And we updated the bullying prevention intervention plan. It was reviewed by our legal counsel, and that's the actual plan that's been updated. So that is the link to it. And that's one that I've not shared yet with the school committee. But this is it, and it's ready to go. So I wanted to, also put that into the documentation. The school committee doesn't have to vote on agreeing to this. This is just one that gets updated. So we're going to update this now more frequently so that we're staying up to speed with any types of modifications that need to be made, any updates in the laws. The laws that get updated, we get the information from DESE, and then we can make the modifications accordingly. But there were some minor language changes to the document, but I think for the most part, not for the most part, but the group felt very, very positive about it. In terms of other items for the evaluation, what I do is I just note different items that I have, continued to do, and I do. This is not an exhaustive list. These are just items that I think, just highlight some of the different things that I focus on, including contract negotiations. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
As long as you're so.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, okay. Was that Mary?
Yeah, I heard her giving the standard parent answer about as long as you're doing the social distancing and everything you're supposed to do. Go ahead.
Okay. I can't see anything. I'm on my computer. So yeah, so I talked about the contract negotiations, the many subcommittee meetings, what we did for the administrative retreat, all of the principal leadership team meetings, curriculum meetings, school improvement plans, how they tie back to goals and strategic plans, the evaluation process, making sure that I've gone through that even during all of this. Talk a little bit about the triple E threat that we had to deal with in the fall that, again, that would have been probably the highlight if COVID-19 hadn't occurred, because that's something that took an awful lot of my time. We talk about the support for the interface referral service and, the number of meetings that I continue to have with our police and fire officials and also our member town administrators. So, again, that's that open line of communication that, is so vital in terms of, ensuring that, people understand where the district is coming from in terms of our needs, yet at the same time, we're cognizant of how each community is, has its own individual needs as well, both financially and, academically and social emotionally. So that's the document in its totality.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll open it up for the other members of the subcommittee if there are any comments, questions. No?
I
Okay.
don't have, this isn't really an opportunity for feedback on the document, right? The document is what it is.
I couldn't hear that. I don't know if that's my, but
I can't hear it either, Matt.
Yeah.
Hang on.
All jumbled here in Maine.
So was that Amy speaking?
Yeah, probably. I might be showing my age, but it sounded like a Cylon on Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy, you want to try again? Can't hear you now at all. Just there's 1 minute.
I think it's just while Amy is logging on, I think it's generally okay. One question, I guess, is, if you looked at your at the indicators and make sure that there's some match between the indicators and the report, just as people, if they're going to use a rubric in a rubric-based way to do the evaluation, just to make sure that there's no indicator that's important that isn't addressed in issues that were in the report.
Okay. Would,
and I'm not saying there is or isn't. I'm just, that's just
yeah, right. So
right?
and again, when I looked at all of them and I broke them down, I tried to cover those. And if they weren't covered in the goal, because that was one of the things that we looked at when we looked at the goals, was ensuring that, here are the goals, and then those goals tied back to the elements associated with the indicators. Right. So it should be inherently already part of it. But I also tried to add some different items at the end to help support some of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just make like this. I look at this as still a draft format, right? It came out to us. That was the first time I laid eyes on it, so I haven't looked at the content. But I would just say in general to make sure that it aligns with rubric, and if there are even areas that you need to specifically state that this aligns with this indicator for this, it will help guide a person completing it. And the other thing I would say is don't be afraid to include as much evidence as possible to help support that, right? So I like the fact that you have links there, but also highlighting that this link supports this. I think just calling that out will help people start to then, when they're thinking about writing an evaluation, say, okay, I saw this that related to that.
Okay. Yep. That's it's interesting because when I was working on it, that was one of the things I was thinking. I'm like, should I really be specific or should I just kind of not but I will do that. I'll go back through and those examples and any of the backing information that's required, I'll highlight and I'll put that back into, tie it back to, I wonder if I could tie it back, Barry, I wonder if I could link those up to the document.
Link what?
So this is under, this is element 15 or whatever it is, or element A under 4.
Well, we could link. Yeah, well, we'd have to make a different version of the rubric document so that you could link to specific indicators, if that's what you're talking about. We could mess around with that.
Okay.
But when I write grants and stuff, you always want to use the language of the evaluating thing, like actually in your description. And so I think as Matt was suggesting, I think that kind of strategy is good because you don't want the reviewer to be the one who has to draw the links. If you've already drawn the links, just hammer them over the head with it because that just makes it easier to evaluate.
Okay. Yep. I'll get that.
And I should know this, but there's probably a good percentage of people that this is their first time evaluating you. So I think that it just helps with that guidance.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Amy, can we hear you now?
Hopefully. Is that better?
Yes.
The headset is burned out at the end of a 7 million meeting day. So, we got it really late, so I didn't have a chance to take a decent look at it. I wasn't sure whether or not, I couldn't remember from last year if this was actually feedback or just like commentary on format. I do think a couple of things came to mind when I read it. One was that I think that we talked in our April meeting, if I'm not mistaken, about the fact that we didn't want this to be just COVID-19, right? Like that there were many weeks of the school year that happened pre-March 13th, whenever the last day of school was, and that like certainly the last 10 weeks have been most impactful, but like there was work done towards goals and things like that should. So I think that pulling more of that stuff in there is probably really good. We worked really hard in framing the goals around like evidence of leadership and impact. And I feel like right now what's presented to us is what we've had in the past, which I've personally found frustrating and have expressed that it doesn't actually show evidence of impact. It's just a list of things that happened. But no, like we specifically talked in the fall or in November, January, whenever we had one of our meetings about like survey the people that participate in these processes, like tell us about what, you know, the process was like and what the leadership felt like to them and helping them, you know, improve their practice or identify the policy or whatever the goal was. And I still feel like that's some of that. The list is robust in terms of the number of things that were attended or, you know, read or done, but the impact is still pretty light for me. That's my 30,000 foot view, like not having received it until today.
Okay.
Do the members of this subcommittee feel comfortable as a takeaway independently without communicating amongst members of the subcommittee, giving Dr. McCall any feedback on just the format or those pieces that you might have just mentioned, Amy? Do you feel comfortable if it's worthwhile to give that feedback in the next few days or so as you do take a look at this?
Do I feel comfortable?
Well, I'm just asking if the members of the subcommittee has a takeaway, right? Knowing that Dr. McCall shared this with us to just kind of go over the format to say, here's how it aligns. But as we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, the next step is going to be to leverage a rubric to use an evaluation. As we're thinking about that high level, does it make sense to give, because right now I don't think is that format to give him that feedback because we all haven't read through it, but to be able to independently say, you know, I think this would be beneficial.
Yeah.
Throwing that out.
I mean, I don't know that there's a ton more to add. Like, I don't know that it's fair to get into nitty gritty of my evaluation of the things that are included. Like, I'm trying to balance the high level, like, you know,
Right.
feedback that this committee would give, and Daryl's, you know, like your autonomy to do what you want in terms of presenting to the committee, right? Like this is a guidance, not a mandate. So I'm kind of in a place of balance. I agree with Ken, like drawing the lines is really important because I think that will be hard for some folks to navigate with like the, you know, in any long document like that. So I reiterate or reinforce the things that you guys brought to the attention to. I'm just not sure what.
Okay. I think that's
an email too. I just don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine that we leave this discussion, or at least if there's a consensus or an agreement that there's probably some work to be done to help align the evidence with where it aligns with the rubric. There's a concern over perhaps making sure that we're addressing the impact as well. And I think we leave it at that. And you know, Dr. McCall, you can take that, and the dissemination and the distribution to the full school committee is really, I think, something that would align with after the next full school committee meeting, right? Unless you think it makes sense to distribute it prior to us going through the rubric and the evaluation. If you're ready to distribute it, I don't think there's anything wrong with distributing it to people in advance. But I would just hate to have a discussion about it in a full school committee without people seeing the evaluation.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. So we have the meeting on the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to go out in my report.
That's right.
And I can tell you, I am up to my eyeballs right now in budget. So it's a little, we have business and finance tomorrow night, and I have my other task force meeting. I have 2 meetings back to back tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thinking whether or not I would be able to get that completed by Friday to get it, you know, all together with Rebecca and get it out.
Would you be able to have it out Tuesday morning after the meeting?
Yeah, I think we could do that. I think I'd be able to get that out. Yeah. I would need some more time to, you know, make sure that I could align different things. Because again, what I'll do is I'll have to go back through the document. I just know my head's not going to be there until, this business and finance meeting is done. I've got some other things that, are pressing right now. And then I can probably get this out. I could definitely get it out Tuesday, Matt.
Okay, because here's what I'm thinking, and I think it's, if everybody's okay, I'd like to kind of move to the electronic template. I don't even know if we need to, if the decision is that I'll present that piece, I don't even know if we need to really go through it. Barry, I can kind of just test it on my own and communicate with you over email. I'm comfortable with that, but I think from a subcommittee, it's important for us to talk about kind of next steps of events in alignment with full school committee. So knowing that Dr. McCall's going to plan on having his evaluation distributed to the full school committee after our next meeting. So we'll just call it Tuesday of next week.
Yep.
Knowing that as part of our agenda at Monday's meeting, we're going to make sure that everybody knows what the evaluation template is, how to access that. They're going to then be on the lookout for the evaluation. We're going to want to define a time frame for people to complete it. I think we've talked about a week, probably no longer than that. But I just wanted to have a feeling that if we gave people the rubric and the tool and everything by Tuesday, is it okay to give them through the weekend and expect for that to be completed by Monday?
I think as long as you give people a weekend, it's fine.
Yeah. So then the question becomes, as a subcommittee, Megan's not here. We have 4 standards. And one thing that we've done in the past is we've taken the individuals and we've each compiled what we've had for each standard. So I think it makes sense at this meeting to figure that out. I know without Megan here, and I can have Rebecca send out an email saying, here's the standards, and then have her distribute those out. So when we reconvene as a subcommittee, we can then go over that, give Ken some direction as you're creating the composite evaluation. Does that make sense to do right now and figure that out?
Can we think about dates first, though? Because I think we have our next meeting on the 15th, which would be that day it's due.
Right.
So I can't do it during the day because I got meetings all day that day.
Right. So, I mean, I think when we put those meetings, that's the subcommittee meeting. And I think we put that out as a framework, but we could certainly look at adjusting that meeting, right?
Yeah.
If we know that it's due on the 15th, we're going to need some time to probably put that together. I think as a subcommittee, we had said like 48, we all would want it at least a couple days, but I don't want to put people out of like real tight time frame, but we are, we're pushing towards the end of the, and we want to give you enough time, Ken, because you're ultimately going to draft the composite evaluation.
So I have the 22nd on my calendar. I have 2 meetings. I have the 15th and the 22nd.
So do I.
Okay.
Problem?
No, you're right. I have that too.
So do we need the 15th? Because I might have just had Rebecca put it as a placeholder in case we did. I personally don't think we necessarily do, right? As long as we get the composites back by the 15th, we each do our work. The real question is, Ken, do you want us to try to give you the standard write-ups kind of individually before the 22nd? And do we want to use the 22nd to go over everything from a composite, or do we want to use the 22nd to each present the standards and then give you that information?
Putting the 22nd as a date in the parking lot for a second, because I think I might be holding the town meeting. I think getting it to me ahead of time is fine. If we wanted to give it to me like on that Friday or something, and I'd have the weekend to at least cut and paste and then kind of jimmy it a little bit, and then go from there. So I think it would be more productive if it was all in one document.
Yeah, I think that's what we've done in the past.
That's
yeah. So yeah, I think that's fine.
It does sound familiar about.
It's either election day or the town meeting. I'm just trying to see which, because the dates.
Ken, I feel like it's town meeting, but Rebecca hasn't put it in my calendar yet.
Yeah, Holden has not been good at updating their website on this kind of thing.
No.
Let me see if I can.
It is June.
I know she sent us an email.
22nd is the town election. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's town election, that's no big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, the town meeting is the 29th.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So if we need to adjust it, just let me know. But we want to strike the meeting on the 15th. We don't need that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. How do we want to handle standards? Are you okay if I just have Rebecca randomly? Is anybody passionate about any specific standard?
No.
Ken? Okay.
Whatever, it's fine.
Okay. I'll make life easier. I think we've skipped a couple items on the agenda because we were able to cover the next meeting. I think the next item is public hearing. You're on mute, Mary.
I know. I'm in the house now. I made all my comments at the beginning.
Okay. Then the next item is any new business. No?
Just one quick observation. It's not really new business, but we've discussed before the fact that the membership might turn over before the end of this. So I don't think there's any problem that member Michalowski won't actually be a member of the committee at a certain point. But I think town elections, you said, are the 22nd. So I guess you're technically still there until someone else is sworn in terms of her attending a meeting as a not member of the committee. I have no idea what the technical details of that are, but it just popped into my head for a second.
So the 22nd, she very well can attend because somebody's not sworn in, right? Like that.
I think it's okay.
Oh,
yeah.
the ballots get counted. One of the ballots counted, but like 8 p.m.
Yeah, you're right.
I guess it's one of those little technical things.
Technically, you're right.
You can go out with the bang.
Yeah.
Work to the last second.
I'm happy to not do the work of that part. That's
No.
You can
It's
just.
8:30. I'm checking out. Bye. Here's
Yeah, I'm done.
my replacement. Meet them.
No, we'll have to see if I'm still on the fence about a write-in. So we'll see how that pans out in the next 1 week.
You should do it soon because I got my written ballot at home. I'm going to mail in. I'm going to put your name on it one way or the other unless you tell me otherwise.
Yeah. I told Jerry she could just swear me in for a year at a time until they fill the seat. So that works. Hey, Barry, while I was looking at the form, I may have, instead of scrolling, clicked. So can you, if there's an actual submission for me, Can you just clear that? That would be an error.
Yeah. If you don't go all the way to the end and then submit,
it doesn't save.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we can take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Seconded?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lavoy, aye.
Yeah. You're such a stickler for the rules, Matt. Yes.
Yeah, Mills, yes.
Michalowski, yes.
Lavoy, yes.
I'm going to abstain just to bug you.
Abstain. I mean, what if we all abstain from voting on that? What happens then, Ken? Do we
Not
just leave?
abstaining on adjournment. We can just adjourn.
Do we just see how much bandwidth Barry has to record? The meeting just goes on in a loop forever.
Once one of us leaves, we don't have quorum, so.
Sounds good. All right, we'll see you guys. I'll see you on TV tomorrow, some of you.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you.
Brett.
Take care.
Good night.
I know.
Okay. Okay.